So here I am in a 1974 Dodge Dart. So here I am in a 1974 Dodge Dart. We just blew through a stop sign at 70 miles per hour. I quickly turned to look back at the intersection and said, "Hey, Ivor, that was a stop sign." Ivor calmly looked over at me and said, "I never stop at that stop sign. Nobody ever uses the ninth line." In 1984 that was mostly true. The ninth line was seldom used, but it still had the occasional car on it. That made it nerve-wracking when Ivor blew through that sign. Today in 2023 the 9th line and the 20th side road are both very busy roads. That intersection is now a four-way stop. You would never think of blowing through that stop sign these days. That day in 1984 we were in his old 1974 Dodge Dart. That was a tough little car. It was an automatic with a slant 6. He drove that car until the day it blew up. He was on his way back from college in Orillia on Highway 400 southbound. When the engine blew, a connecting rod broke, and it smashed through the side of the block. There was a hole in the side of the engine big enough to put your hand in, but that wasn't the end of his old Dodge Dart. He started it back up and drove it home to Alcona Beach, running on 5 cylinders with a huge plume of smoke billowing out from beneath the car. That engine would not die. Now in typical Ivor fashion, after he got the car home it was time for a "let's blow up the Dodge Dart" party. The car was parked on the driveway. The picnic tables were arranged. A few friends gathered, and a few beers started to flow. Now it was time for the big moment. We were all excited. We wanted to see how an engine would blow up. We were anticipating a spectacular explosion with parts flying everywhere, and possibly even flames. Play drum roll now. Ivor went over and started the Dodge. The engine started right up on its remaining 5 cylinders. It was smoking and missing but it still ran. Then he placed a brick on the accelerator pedal. The engine at once revved up to its maximum RPMs. The noise was deafening. The oil smoke was everywhere. It's amazing that the police or fire department didn't show up. In the meantime, we waited for the coup de grace, the big explosion. We waited and watched, and we waited, and then we waited some more. Finally, Ivor had to go over and shut it off. The noise and the smoke had become too much to take. What a disappointment. No big bang. No parts flying everywhere. No flames. Not even a spark. That engine would not die. Oh well, I guess we'll just have to drink more beer. And we all continued to party on. A few days later the Dodge went to the Great Wrecking Yard in the Sky. Back in those days, Ivor had a nice shop set up in his garage. He was our go-to mechanic. We had a 1975 Ford Granada that Ivor took care of for us. He did everything from tune-ups to replacing the leaf springs on that car. Out of all the cars Maya and I have ever owned, I liked that Ford Granada best of all. It was a brown four-door with tan leather interior and a tan vinyl top. When we first got it, it looked like a mini Lincoln. It had class. Ivor and I met at Seneca College in 1977. We were part of a group that hung out together. We played a lot of euchre, drank beer, and went to the Friday night pub. Oh yeah, I should mention that we also went to classes as well. I have known Ivor longer than I've known my wife Maya. Maya and I met at Seneca as well, but not until May of 1978, a few months after I had met Ivor. In 1984 Maya and I and our little girl Jessica were living in an apartment in Richmond Hill. Our building was surrounded by a huge construction project. It was noisy and dusty. We hated it. We needed to move. Maya and I decided to move away from Richmond Hill altogether. One of the places we had been considering was the Barrie area. Currently Ivor and his wife Kathy and little girl Tina had been living in Innisfil. A year earlier they had bought a house in Alcona Beach. They told us how much they loved the area. Ivor and Kathy were instrumental in convincing us to move to Innisfil. They knew of a house that would be coming up for rent soon, on Innisfil Beach Road. They put us in touch with the owners and Maya and I decided to go and see the house. We met the owners and signed a rental agreement that day. Ivor was not only influential in getting us to move to Innisfil, he actually came down and helped me move. Ivor had connections with the local Lions Club. Ivor always had connections. The Lions Club had a large truck that Ivor was able to borrow, and we used it to move me from Richmond Hill to Alcona Beach. The truck was large enough to make the move in only one trip. Ivor drove. Maya, our daughter Jessica, and I settled into our little two-bedroom house on Innisfil Beach Road. It was an all-new start for us. We didn't know anyone in the area except for Ivor and Kathy and their daughter Tina. We all hung around together. Ivor and Kathy only lived 6 houses down the road from us. They introduced us to a lot of people, and we soon felt welcome and right at home in our new neighborhood. I hung around a lot with Ivor. He introduced me to a lot of people, including some of his friends at the Lions Club. One of Ivor's Lions Club friends asked Ivor to deliver a truckload of chairs and tables to a local restaurant. The restaurant was putting on a special dinner concert on their patio and had rented chairs and tables from the Lions Club. The event tickets included a prime rib dinner and entertainment by the singer Sylvia Tyson. Ivor asked me to help him deliver the chairs and tables. A little while later we arrived at the restaurant with a truck full of tables and chairs. We unloaded the truck and set them up on the patio under the direction of the restaurant owner. After we finished setting up the chairs and tables on the patio, Ivor took the restaurant owner aside and asked him who was doing security for the event that night. The restaurateur told him nobody. At this point Ivor got a serious look on his face and asked how many you were expecting tonight. A few years earlier Ivor had been a security man for the rock band Teenage Head. He had some experience in event security and crowd control. The restaurateur told him how many he was expecting. This was the opportunity Ivor was waiting for. He explained to the restaurant owner how quickly things could get out of hand with a large crowd, especially when there was alcohol involved. He played up the seriousness of the situation and he got the restaurant owner a little worried. As a result, Ivor and I were hired as security for his event. This turned out to be a good arrangement for Ivor and me. In return for acting as security for the evening and packing up all the chairs and tables at closing time, Ivor, Kathy, Maya and I all got tickets to the show. In addition to that, we all had prime ribs for dinner and all our drinks for the evening were included. Upon arrival a waiter took our drink order. He soon returned with our drinks and asked for payment. That is when Ivor spoke up and said no, we're staff. That was it. The whole night was free. Dinner, drinks and the show. We fulfilled our obligation at closing time and packed up the tables and chairs, while Maya and Kathy went home. A good time was had by all. A few weeks later the 4 of us went to Georgian Downs Racetrack to watch the ponies run. While there we saw that there was an equestrian dinner and awards ceremony being held in a large private room. I knew a close family friend with important ties to the equestrian world. To not be outdone by Ivor at the Sylvia Tyson dinner event, I dropped a name at the awards ceremony entrance, and we were all admitted. Another evening of free drinks and free food. A good time was had by all. Again, I also credit Ivor with the invention of the oil tank rotisserie barbecue. Ivor took an oil tank used by homeowners for fuel oil storage and turned it into a huge rotisserie barbecue, ideal for pig roasts and other large barbecue parties. From just an idea and a jury-rigged prototype in the mid-1980s, to a professionally made portable charcoal rotisserie barbecue on wheels, Ivor designed and built a totally awesome piece of equipment, just ideal for large barbecue parties, just Ivor's style. True,